Welcome back to Season 9 of my Oklahoma Sooners Death Penalty Dynasty, and honestly, I don't really know if I should be calling it a Death Penalty Dynasty anymore, since we have won back-to-back-to-back national championships, and have won 3 Heisman trophies in a row. Actually, I think we won 4 Heisman trophies in a row, because Ty Downing won 1, and then Chris McKinney won 3 in a row. But either way, we're going to keep calling it a Death Penalty Dynasty for now. That rant is over. In this episode, we will be going over the depth chart, the schedule, who I redshirted, and we will be seeing what the other players that have graduated are up to in the NFL. First thing up is our schedule, and honestly, I would love to have a game here in week 1, but the way the schedule was generated, 7, 8, and 9 are out of conference play, and then we also have a bye week down here in week 14. So we would have had to have back-to-back bye weeks, which is not really something that I wanted to do. So that is why we don't have a game here in week 1, which kind of sucks, but it's what we have to do. We will kick the season off in Norman, taking on number 17 Auburn. Hopefully they don't lose if they have a game in week 1 and they can keep that ranking. We did not play a lot of ranked teams last season. Then in the next week we will take on Ole Miss in Norman, and then we finish up a 3-game home stretch by hosting Arkansas. Following that game, we will travel to Tennessee to take on the Volunteers, and then we get a neutral site game against the Texas Longhorns, and then we travel to Ohio State. I'm hoping they can stay pretty highly ranked this season. Then we have a bye week, then we travel to Nebraska. This is a lot of road games in a row, by the way. And then we are at Mississippi State, and then we are at Texas A&M, and at Missouri. And then finally, after a 5-game road stretch with a bye week in there, we will host LSU in Norman. Then we have a bye week, and then we have Oklahoma State in Bedlam, but it doesn't tell me if this is a home or an away game. I'm going to assume, since we are on the right side of the screen, it's going to be a home game, but I can't guarantee that. Now, with that being said, I believe last season I gave us way too many home games. I think we had 8 home games, only 4 away games, so I was sure to check that this year. As of right now, we have 6 road games here and 5 home games, because I am under the assumption that this will be a home game against Oklahoma State. I'm pretty happy with our schedule. Hopefully Nebraska and Ohio State can both stay ranked, and then maybe some other people can actually be good and get into the top 25. That'd be good for our standing. But as of right now, we are the number 1 team in the country, so we start with a pretty decent advantage. I said in the offseason that I was going to consider not starting quarterback Sean Griffin, and I did really consider that. I went into practice mode and I played a little bit with Griffin and Townsend. They're really close in overall. I even used Ken Wheatley a little bit because he has a much higher throw power than these two. He has a 91 compared to 81 and 84, so I really considered using Wheatley as well. But I think Sean Griffin is just going to be best for this offense right now. He's not as accurate as Townsend, but he does have more arm strength. And then we have Ken Wheatley, who honestly in these ratings is pretty close, and I considered making Wheatley the backup quarterback, but because of Townsend's 91 speed, if Sean Griffin goes down, I don't have to change the offense too much for Sam Townsend to come in. Running back this season is going to be a little bit challenging, because I was honestly expecting Chris McKinney to head to the NFL after winning 3 Heisman trophies in a row, but it looks like he's going to come back and try to get his 4th one, but he's going to have a bit of a challenge because I really want to give John Jordan some carries this season. He was a lot of fun in the limited amount of time that I used him last season. He's a higher overall than McKinney now, so I'm going to try to split these carries up. For the first time in this series, we actually have a fullback in Sean Howard. He only has 61 speed, but he's terrific at blocking because he could have been a 72 overall lineman, but because he was an athlete, he could also play fullback. Wide receiver is going to be another pretty interesting position on this team this season because we did lose our star receiver in Uline Washington to the NFL, but William Brown, a redshirt sophomore, will come in as an 84 overall to be our number 1 receiver on the outside. John Carrington will play the other side of the field, and John Mangum, the receiver that just burst on the scene last year, had a terrific season, will be the slot receiver. He will be backed up by Robert Weber with 94 speed, and then we have Grant McConnell and Anthony Hollis, who are both seniors in their final year trying to find the field. At tight end, we are still going to be starting Thomas Patterson, the 6'8", 260-pound tight end out of Lawton, Oklahoma. He is currently an 81 overall. He will be backed up by Sammy Whitaker, who is already close to him in overall and has a much higher speed rating. If I actually start throwing to the tight end this season, there's a chance Whitaker could take his job, but Patterson has been pretty reliable for us so far. In this game, off-ball injuries don't really happen all that much, especially in the offensive line, so depth at O-line doesn't really matter, so we're just going to go over these starters here. At left tackle, we'll be starting Andrew Harrell, who is an 80 overall right tackle. We actually have a left tackle on the roster, but he's not very good. I wish whenever you were recruiting, it told you if they were left or right tackle, but it doesn't really matter, I guess, because they can play either side. Then left guard will be an 84 overall CJ Clark. At center, we have an 85 overall Josh McDougal. At right guard, an 80 overall Eric Weber. And then at right tackle, an 83 overall Joey Rutledge. On the defensive line, we do return superstar defensive end Dwight Rollins. He's only an 83 overall, but already owns the record for most sacks in a single career in college. So he's just going to try to make that record completely and totally unbreakable. He'll be backed up by Hassan Nugent on this side. Over at right end, we will be using Dwayne McDaniel. He didn't get a lot of playing time last season. I called his name a little bit here, but the main reason we're using McDaniel on the other side of the line is because of his block shedding of a 95. So he could be a monster this season. And I want to try to get true freshman Paul Manning a little bit of playing time. I elected to not redshirt him just so I can try to sub him in a little bit and see if he can actually do anything. Continuing along the defensive line, we do return Ryan Covington, who I believe was an All-American last season. He looks to be a preseason All-American this year, but the number one defensive tackle will be true freshman J.R. Pearson. 6'7", 280 pounds. He's only an 80 overall, but once again, the main reason I am starting him is because of his block shedding over the other guys. He already has an 82 block shedding. Down here, it's just Dwayne McDaniel at a 95. Don't be concerned about that right now. And then Ryan Covington still has a 78. His backup has a 76. But I'm kind of excited for J.R. Pearson, and I want to see exactly what he can do. At left outside linebacker, we will be starting Brian Bass, who was an 80 overall true sophomore. At middle linebacker, we return David Jordan in his final season as an 84 overall. And at right outside linebacker, we have sophomore Nate Thompson, who is currently an 81 overall. Corner is another position group that's going to be tested this season because we lost guys like Alex Red and George Steele and Eugene Blake. So Adam Jackson becomes our number one corner. He did lead the team in interceptions last season. Jeff Cox, only at 5'9", will play the other side. Hopefully he doesn't get mossed too many times. And then we have junior Trey Bolin backing him up. I believe he was a JUCO transfer this season. Then we have sophomore Elton Butler and true freshman Ben Rivers down here. All of these guys are incredibly fast, and I believe most of their man coverage is pretty solid. I do play a lot of man with my corners here, so let's go ahead and double check that. They're at 90, 84, 91, 89, and 80. And then their zone coverage is at 99, 93, 88, 83, and 90. And I say this every single time I look over the depth chart. Maybe I need to call more zone. And typically whenever I call zone in games, it tends to work. But then I always default back to going to man coverage just because that's comfortable for me. Free safety, we did lose Brian Alexander to the draft. He was only a junior, but elected to come out early. He was already a 94 overall, so I don't really blame him. But we do have a pretty good replacement in sophomore Dwayne Jones. He's an 88 overall with 96 speed, 97 acceleration. He played pretty well last season in what limited amount of time he got here. And let's go over here and check out. He has 90 tackling, 81 hit power. Not great block shedding, but 81 pursuit, 77 man, and 79 zone coverage. Ben Rivers will be his backup just in case he gets injured, and Rivers has some solid coverage stats as you guys already saw, but I'm excited to see Dwayne Jones. In the other safety spot, we do return Walter Siegel, who played really well last season at an 81 overall, but there is a new safety on the roster, true freshman Kyle Olson. He's only 2 overall points lower. He is a lot faster, has the same amount of acceleration, a little bit less awareness. If Siegel starts to get burnt in coverage a little bit, I could switch over to Olson. I don't think that would hurt the defense too much here. We can go over here and look at these stats. 86 tackling to 80 tackling, 84 to 71 hit power. And then we go over to block shedding, 79, 72. Pursuit is a 90 for Walter Siegel, only a 77 for Kyle Olson. Play rec is a 65 to 75, so Kyle Olson can already identify plays quicker than Siegel can. 73 to 71 man coverage though, that's not great. 85 to 75 zone coverage, that is also not great. So like I said, if Siegel starts to get burnt, I could switch to Kyle Olson and see if anything changes, but as of right now, Siegel will be the starter. We do have a brand new kicker in Brian Wood. He comes in as an 83 overall, and we can scroll all the way over to kick power and accuracy so you guys can see that. 84 kick power, 84 kick accuracy. I'm kind of curious if just making Jim Kelly also our kicker would be a good idea, but I did recruit Brian Wood for a reason. And then obviously our punter will still be Jim Kelly. At kick returner, there were a lot of people that could have done it. I could have given the job back to John Jordan, but ultimately I decided to give it to third string running back Victor Alexander. He has a 96 speed, 85 acceleration isn't great, so if he isn't really returning that many big kicks, we may change in the middle of the year, but he does have 84 elusiveness, which is something I really look for in kick return, 82 spin move, 82 juke. I think he's going to be a pretty solid returner, and Victor Alexander will also be the punt returner. I do love the fact that I'm finally in a position where I can redshirt true freshmen that aren't going to get to play, like quarterback Christian Carter. He's 6'7", 220 pounds. He's only a 71 overall quarterback. Obviously not going to see the field this season, so I went ahead and redshirted him. At running back, I am redshirting the #1 running back from the last class in Corey Mays. He's an 82 overall. We have some pretty solid backups. Obviously, most of the carries are going to go to John Jordan and Chris McKinney anyway. We ended up with one true freshman receiver this year, and that is wide receiver Seth Phillips. I went ahead and redshirted him as well, just because he's the 5th best receiver on the roster right now. Probably wasn't going to see the field much, so why not just not burn a year of eligibility? On the offensive line, we have no true freshman at left tackle. At left guard, I am going to redshirt Reggie Wallace, one of the guards we just brought in, just because CJ Clark is a lot better right now, still a junior. He could leave after this season, but I doubt it. Doesn't seem to be that mid-80 overall is leaving too often. At center, we do have a true freshman in Darius Johnson, but he's the only backup center we have, so I'm not going to redshirt him. At right guard, we have one true freshman in Eric Weber, but he will be starting, therefore we're not going to redshirt him. At right tackle, we did have one new guy. We actually have two, but I'm going to leave Tommy Roberts available just in case we need him on just the freak chance that offensive linemen start getting injured for some reason. But Craig Horner will be redshirted this year just because he's probably not going to see the field behind these two guys. On the defensive line, I really considered redshirting true freshman Paul Manning. An 80 overall, he's the 5th best left end on our roster right now. But ultimately, I decided that I want to see him play this season a little bit to see exactly what he can do, which is why I ultimately decided not to redshirt him. At right end, we have no one that we can redshirt really. At defensive tackle, I redshirted one true freshman in Jeremy Williams, just because these two guys will actually get playing time. Williams wasn't going to, so he will sit a year and then wait. We have no left outside linebacker on the roster, which is why right outside linebacker is playing left outside linebacker. I did redshirt middle linebacker David Lane just because he is the 3rd string right now, and David Jordan pretty much has that job on lock. And then at right outside linebacker, I redshirted true freshman Corey Robinson. I could not afford to redshirt a whole lot of players here in the secondary, which is why 2 true freshmen are still here. But I did redshirt Luke Washington. I honestly don't even know if he will make the team next season. A 61 overall, probably going to be a long shot to make the team after this year. Free safety, we really can't redshirt Lorenzo Smith just because I apparently forgot to recruit another free safety, so that is a walk-on that got added to the team. And at strong safety, I didn't want to redshirt Kyle Olson because right now he is the backup safety. Now before I go take a look and see what all of the preseason awards and rankings are, let's head over and see how Ty Downing did in his rookie season. And that will take us over into Madden 23, where we will simulate Ty Downing's rookie season. We will finally figure out exactly how good of an NFL quarterback he is, and then we will do the entire offseason and figure out where 12 more players have gone. As I simulate his rookie season here, I want to go over some of the players that will be entering this draft, like free safety Eugene Blake, defensive back Alex Red, wide receiver Lane Washington, defensive back Eugene Blake. We have a total of 12 players, like I just said, entering this draft. The first player I ever created in this Madden save was wide receiver Tim Scott, and he just had the best season of his career. 70 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 9 touchdowns. I believe he does have a Super Bowl ring already, but yeah, he ended up being a pretty big part of the Chiefs offense this year. And for the 3rd straight season, it does not look like middle linebacker Dallas Tremblay got to play too much. He did get a career high in tackles though. I know quarterback Clark Nelson was on the Bengals practice squad the first couple years of his career, but he is no longer here, so I really don't know what happened to him. I may have to try to find him later. Over in Seattle, BJ Smith had a 14 touchdown rookie season. This year he only got 5 touchdowns. Over in Green Bay, it looks like Kawika Moore may have gotten a little bit more playing time. He didn't get an interception this year or a sack, but he did get 28 tackles as opposed to 13 his rookie year. Well, I think it's safe to say quarterback Ty Downing is a pretty good NFL quarterback. 5,600 yards, 44 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. That is an insane rookie season. What did his receivers do? DJ Moore, 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. Nathan Church caught 8 touchdowns. And Ajayi Hall caught 13 touchdowns. So yeah, it's pretty safe to say that I think Ty Downing's probably going to take Rookie of the Year. In Wayne Outlaw's rookie season, he was a 2nd round pick. He gets 51 catches, 689 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Wide receiver Joey Miller was a 5th round pick for the Lions, and it does not look like he got much playing time, only getting 2 catches for 16 yards. And Jeff Benson didn't get much more opportunity in Las Vegas than Joey Miller did in Detroit. Benson finishes with 11 catches for 169 yards. Outside linebacker Jake Wright was a 7th round pick for the Cardinals, did not get much playing time, got 3 tackles on the season. And free safety Eric Kemp was drafted to the Jaguars, according to my notes at least, but he is no longer on the team, so I don't know exactly where he went. I have located Eric Kemp now. He is apparently on the Jaguars practice squad as a 66 overall, not really much of a shock, but obviously he didn't get to play much this season. I sorted other quarterbacks alphabetically in the league, and Clark Nelson is not here, so I am going to assume that Clark Nelson is either a free agent or no one signed him and he was forced to retire. Alright, never mind, I just didn't even go look at the Bengals practice squad. I thought he had already used all of that eligibility, but he is apparently still on the Cincinnati practice squad. Obviously, the main record we are concerned about is the Carolina Panthers. They went 11-6 this season and did make the playoffs behind Ty Downing's incredible rookie year. And in Ty Downing's rookie season in the NFL, he has led the Panthers to a Super Bowl appearance to take on Jacksonville. And apparently all Ty Downing knows how to do is win championships. He won back-to-back championships before he left college and now has continued that. So not only in this year did we win a three-peat, Ty Downing also won the Super Bowl and got Super Bowl MVP, also got league MVP, and obviously Offensive Rookie of the Year. An insane season from our former quarterback. We are now at the NFL draft. We're not going to watch any of it, but let's go over the players that are currently in the draft. To me, the best player we have in this draft right now is free safety Brian Alexander. He is projected to go in the first round. We have 3 defensive backs in this class. We're going to go over all 3 of them right here. First, we have defensive back Alex Red, who is expected to be the first corner off the board. And then farther down here, actually way farther down here, we should have defensive back Eugene Blake, who is projected to be a day 3 pick. And then the final one down here is going to be George Steele, also projected to be a day 3 pick. The next player up is one of my favorite players from the series so far, is wide receiver Lane Washington, expected to be a first round pick. We then have left outside linebacker Justin Rogers, who is expected to be a day 3 pick as well. The next player up is defensive end Ashton Mills, and yes, that does say Aston Mills. It would not let me put the H in his name. I have no idea why, but he is also projected to go in day 3. Safety Jason Tremblay is actually at the bottom of the list for strong safeties, but I believe I still made him a decent overall here. Hopefully he gets drafted, but he is projected to go undrafted right now. We do have a couple linemen in this class. The first one is left guard Josh Higgins, expected to go on day 3. And then we have center, I believe it is Steve Thomas, who is going to be pretty far down this list here. He is the bottom rated center as of right now, expected to go undrafted. We have one other receiver in the class, and that is wide receiver Rich Anderson. He is expected to go undrafted. He did not get a lot of opportunities in college. He was our number 2 receiver last season, but he really didn't get open a whole lot. I'm hoping he still turns into a pretty solid pro. And then just randomly, I want to show you guys one receiver that's in this class that just happened to get a really funny randomized name in George Lopez. And the final player in this class is kicker Jermaine Allen. He was the first kicker that I actually recruited, and he was okay. He had pretty good accuracy, but really couldn't make long field goals, so that's why I didn't make him like the highest rated kicker in this class. But now we will simulate the draft and figure out where everyone went before I head back to the season preview. The first Sooner off the board went in round 1, pick 7 to the Indianapolis Colts when they took free safety Brian Alexander. He is a 79 overall, and I gave him a superstar depth trade. Then just a few picks later at pick 10, the Chicago Bears took defensive back Alex Red, so he will be joining Wayne Outlaw with the Bears. He is a 78 overall and also has a superstar depth trade. Wide receiver Lane Washington has been drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers with the 12th pick in the first round, just a couple picks after Alex Red. He comes in as a 78 overall receiver with a star depth trade. Jumping a little bit later into the draft now, defensive back Eugene Blake was taken by the New York Jets in the 4th round with the 11th pick. He is a 71 overall with a normal depth trade. Outside linebacker Justin Rogers was taken just a handful of picks later with the 19th pick in the 4th round by the Minnesota Vikings. Then George Steele was taken with the first pick in the 5th round of the draft by the New Orleans Saints. With the 15th pick in the 5th round, the Houston Texans would take defensive end Ashton Mills, who comes in as a 71 overall star depth trade. We are now going to backtrack a little bit because back in the 4th round with pick 21, the Baltimore Ravens would take left guard Josh Higgins, who does come in, I believe, as a star depth trade. With the 7th pick in the 7th round, the Indianapolis Colts would take center Steve Thomas. He is only a 66 overall, probably not going to follow him much more than this. Our last player to be drafted will be taken with pick 26 in the 7th round by the Kansas City Chiefs, and it is wide receiver Rich Anderson. So he will be joining former Sooner Tim Scott in Kansas City. And actually, I did not even change this guy's depth trade. He was a superstar whenever I went in to edit this guy. so I just left it there. Brian Alexander ends up as the highest rated rookie in this class. Alex Red and Uline Washington are tied for second highest. This receiver out of Vanderbilt though has 99 speed. That is a little bit insane. But either way, we have a couple undrafted free agents. I knew one of them was going to go undrafted, and that is kicker Jermaine Allen. But Jason Tremblay did end up going undrafted, which I'm kind of shocked that no one took a flyer on him. He was actually the highest rated safety that was expected to go undrafted. Jermaine Allen is not in the free agent list, which means he has signed with somebody, so we will have to go find him. And the same thing with Jason Tremblay. He is no longer in the free agents list, which means he has also signed with somebody. Jason Tremblay ends up signing with the Chiefs as well. So as far as I know right now, we have 3 players with the Kansas City Chiefs. And Jermaine Allen has signed with the Washington Commanders. Quarterback Ty Downing, now a 93 overall and a superstar X-Factor quarterback, a Super Bowl champion. I would say it was a pretty good idea for the Panthers to take him with the 3rd pick in the draft. And honestly, Ty Downing is the reason that I decided to do this part on the team preview to see exactly how their careers would play out in the league. But anyway, let me send you now back over to the season preview. Honestly, when I recorded that, I was incredibly shocked that he won the Super Bowl in his rookie season. I figured he would win one because I made him a pretty solid quarterback prospect, but to win one in his rookie year, I feel like is going to set the expectations incredibly high for him. For preseason All-Americans, this is the first team. We got quarterback Sean Griffin, running back Chris McKinney, wide receiver John Mangum, and then down here we also have Dwight Rollins, Ryan Covington, David Jordan made it, Adam Jackson has made it, and Walter Siegel made it, and John Jordan as a returner, even though he won't be a returner this season. For second team, did anyone in our team make this one? So far does not look like it, and no, they did not. Now for all conference, Sean Griffin made first team quarterback, Chris McKinney is the running back, John Mangum made receivers, so far the same exact list, Dwight Rollins, Ryan Covington, David Jordan. Looks like Nate Thompson made it as outside linebacker, Adam Jackson at corner, Walter Siegel at safety, and John Jordan at returner. For second team, we do have CJ Clark down here at left guard. And then anyone else, it does not look like it, and no. The preseason Heisman watch has Chris McKinney as the favorite right now to win his 4th straight Heisman Trophy. Absolutely insane, but I don't know if he'll do it because I do want to give John Jordan some carries like I mentioned earlier, but Sean Griffin has also made the Heisman watch list. The top 10 heading into week 1 is as follows: Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Michigan, Stanford, Ohio State, Florida, Georgia, Florida State, California, and Alabama. In the next video, we will be in week 2 to take on the Auburn Tigers. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and I will talk to you guys next time.